Hi, it's Liz Yule from Old Stables Crafts again. I thought I'd bring a project to you today. This is a little project that I'm making for a friend of mine who has asked me to put together a bigger box full of little gifts for a group of friends that they've got, where they exchange small gifts each year. So this is one of the items that I'm making, and it's a little box that, if I just open it up, it holds 2 Yankee Candle Tea Lights, and it's been made specifically so that it is exactly the right size for 2 of those tea lights, and it measures 1 5/8 by 1 5/8 by 1 5/8, so it's an exact cube. I will try and work out the measurements for metric as well, and I will add those to my blog to go with the post alongside this. And all of the measurements for this will be on my blog as well, so don't worry about writing anything down. So let's have a look at how we make this. The first thing we need is a piece of cherry cobbler cardstock. I've chosen cherry cobbler because I want to use the warmth and cheer cardstock pad. That's the little 6x6 cardstock pad that's in the Autumn Winter catalogue on page 9, and it's got lots of lovely, I would call them winter patterns rather than many of them being specifically Christmas. There are 1 or 2 that are definitely Christmas, like this one, but most of them are really more winter than Christmas. So if you don't get to use it all for Christmas projects, there's plenty there to use for other projects as well. And I think particularly actually for men's projects, which are always a bit of a challenge for us. So the first one I made using this plaid pattern. I'm going to use a similar plaid pattern, but this time I'm going to use this. But let's start by looking at the scoring. So I'll bring in my scoring tool. So we are going to score, and because this is card, I like to use the thinner end of the scoring tool. So I tend to use the wider end for the designer series paper and the thinner end for card. So we're going to score with the long edge at the top at 1 5/8. And then 3 1/4. She says doing it at 3 1/2. So let's. Fortunately, you can, because this is such good cardstock, you can actually, if you choose the other end, you can sort of rub that away. And because we're going to be layering paper over, that's actually going to get covered up quite nicely, and you can see it's really not left any mark at all. So we'll try that again with 3 1/4, 4 7/8. And then 6 1/2, and then turning that through 90 degrees, we'll score again at 1 5/8 and 3 1/4, and then again at 4 7/8. So that's all the scoring done, so let's get rid of that. Okay, so now we need to burnish all those score lines. So again, because it's card, I would always use a bone folder for that. And so hopefully you can see those score marks, and then what we need to do is cut up all of these. You'll see that one edge you've got an extra little bit there, and then the other you've just got the straight square. So on the square end you cut up all of those. And then you lose this, So you just notch in, and then again you're going to notch in there and lose this piece. And then you'll see you've then got these 4 pieces up here, and again at this stage we're just going to notch in or cut in all of those. And then what we need to do is, you'll see that you've got one end that's got this little piece sticking out. And if we fold it round, you can see that that's going to be at the back. So we need to make sure that this, which is the one that's next to it, will be the flap that comes over the front. So we need to keep this. This we want to use as part of the closing mechanism. This one we don't need, so we can tuck that away. We can get rid of that. And then this one again will be part of the closing mechanism, and we will get rid of that. And then just to make it slightly easier to close, we'll just notch slightly into there and there, and again here and here. And then this, I think it always looks nicer if your closure has rounded corners, so we'll take the Project Life corner rounder, just round those corners, just makes it look a little smarter, and you end up with that shape. So what we now need to do is put some fast fuse here. Now the key with fast fuse, and I've had a love-hate relationship with it, and I'm now on the love part, is don't apply too much pressure. If you put too much pressure on it, it's very difficult. And then you will have seen me just do a quick flick to the side. Now if you are struggling, what you can do is, we've got this silicone mat, which I was a bit sceptical about this when I first saw it, but this is actually what helped me get to be friends with fast fuse, because fast fuse won't stick to the silicone mat. So if you need to practice using fast fuse, this is a really useful thing to use whilst you're practicing the technique, because it means you don't end up with the fast fuse going into dreadful strings and getting all caught up. So that may be worth a thought if you want to use fast fuse but you're struggling a bit. So let's fold this up. Because this is a square box, and because these sides are all even, all you need to do is fold them over, and then you've got a nice clean finish, and then this will be your top closure. So let's close that just to give us a bit of sturdiness. This is your front piece, you want that to go on last, so we'll fold in the sides, then the back, and then this one, which is from your front. So now I've got that a little more sturdy. You can see this is the front, so we'll put some fast fuse on here again, and say very gentle, and then just a quick flick, and we'll just put a couple of strips of that on, quick flick, and there we are. So that's all we need on the fast fuse. So we can put that away, and then close up the box, and then just make sure it's properly closed by putting your fingers in it. So that's your little box all prepped. And then we need 5 squares of the Designer Series paper of your choice. And these are cut at 1.5 by 1.5. So for these, because it's just paper, I will use snail. And just attach those, and we want them on the top and then the 4 sides, but not the bottom, unless you particularly want to put it on the bottom as well, but there's no real reason to do that. And again, if you struggle with this, although it is a lot easier to use, then the silicone mat will certainly help. and this doesn't really have an upside and a downside, so it's not too much of a problem to put these on just very easily. Say just put them on whichever way up seems right. So there we are, that's that. So that's all that finished. Now we need to do just the little tag and the bauble. Now on this one I did actually heat emboss, but for speed and also because the noise of the heat embosser is really not great on a video, I will use I'll just use a different coloured ink for that. So for that, let's do the sentiment first, and that comes from the Merriest Wishes stamp set, which has a matching framelit bundle, or framelit set, which does come as a bundle. So we will actually be using 2 of the matching framelits for this, and we're using the Merriest Wishes stamp. This is a clear stamp set, so what I now need, of course, is a block. So this is a C block, seems to be the one that I use most frequently, and just to change it a little, rather than using the cherry cobbler which I used first time round, I will use the garden green, which also goes. And this is one of the things I particularly like about Stampin' Up products, is the colours all match across paper, card, ribbon. If it says it's one colour, then it's the same colour in everything. So the technique on these pads, these are the firm foam pads, so just gentle tap, tap, tap. Make sure you're well inked. I've obviously got to be careful now because I've slightly over inked this. So let's see if I can get this reasonably square. And there we are. I'm pleased with that. That's good. Even on camera. And I've also got a scrap piece of paper which I'm going to use for the bauble, which comes from the same set, and this I've got on the tiny little A block. So again, gentle tap and stamp, and then I will take that off, trying not to get too much ink on me, and then get the tiny little bauble top, and then I'm actually going to use crushed curry, only because I don't seem to be able to find a delightful Dijon anywhere, which is actually the yellow that's in this, but the crushed curry is a reasonable substitute. So again, gentle tapping, and then there we are. So that's all the stamping done. What we now need to do is, before I lose this, I'm going to mount it on a piece of the cherry cobbler again, and again, because this is just card onto card and it's not taking any pressure, we'll use snail. And this is, so the measurements for these are, the Whisper White is 1 1/4 by 3/4, and then the cherry cobbler is 1 5/8 by 7/8. So it just gives a nice little surround there. So now with these, we're going to cut these out. So I'll just bring in the big shot. Move my stamps out of the way. Right, I'm going to use the magnetic platform with this because they are quite small little images. I want to make sure that they do stamp out correctly. So it's always best to use the smallest image first, because that's the one these magnetic plates do have a bit of a life of their own. So you do sometimes need to make sure that you've got the smaller item well placed. And then you can add your slightly larger one. As you can see, this has got a bit of a life, so what might actually do to make it a bit easier is cut those two in half, rather than trying to be too clever and do them as one piece. So there we are, that one's nicely lined up. And then this one, we want to make sure that we've got it so that it is reasonably square on as a bauble. And then we take our, in my case, rather used cutting plate or top plate, roll it through the big shot, and then I'll bring it back the other way so that it's easy for you to see. Get rid of the big shot, and then take those away. And then these pop out really nicely. And there we are. And I now need some glue, and I would actually use liquid glue on these. So here's some liquid glue, and this is the nice Tombow. The key to this is to get a very small amount. Tombow is one of those glues that less is definitely more, which, no, that one's not going to play, so we'll find another one. Let's try this one instead. There we are, and just a small amount, and spread it out, and then take your bauble, and you can line it up so that the two holes match up. And there we are. One little bauble. So I'll pop that to one side to dry for the moment. Then for this, we're going to thread this onto some baker's twine. So this is the 1/8 handheld punch. So I'm going to just punch a little hole in the corner, and it'll easily go through the two layers. And then take a short length of baker's twine, and this is the gold baker's twine that's in the trio pack. This is on page 16 of the Autumn Winter catalogue. So we'll just thread a small amount through there, and then we're going to, oh, it would have been clever actually to have done this the other way around. So we want the bauble on top, so let's thread that through there, then the sentiment, and then let's just cut a reasonable length. And then you'll see what I did with this one is just add it to one side, and I did that with a small piece of dimensional. So let's just take a small piece here, and then pop that on. And then if you pull those tight, you get, that will line up nicely, and it's all nicely lined up. So that's that. So we've now got our box. Find the top and the front. Let's just pop our Yankee candles in there so that they're all ready to go. As you see, they fit nicely in there, and they actually match quite nicely for the colour as well. Tuck that in there, and then we're going to tie this up with some delightful Dijon ribbon, and again this is in the Autumn Winter catalogue, and again it's from a trio pack, and it's on page 47. It takes quite some finding, and I think because it's on page 47 it actually comes as part of the Paisleys and Poses set. So I think it gets a bit hidden at the back, and I think it's easy to miss it. So we'll wrap that round underneath, and then cut a sensible looking length without going mad. And then this is always the challenge, can you tie a bow on camera? we're about to find out, I think. And we can, so that's good. So, of course, what I should have done, let's do that now, is tie this in a loop. And then we can feed that onto the ribbon so that it is tied on as part of that whole tying of the ribbon process. And just neaten that up a bit. And the knot's nicely hidden for the tag. Just straighten those up. And there we are. So that's another one of those gifts done for the gift boxes that I'm doing. So anyway, I hope you like that. Just trim those a bit shorter. I say everything that you want, all the instructions and the measurements and everything and which products I used are on my blog. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Details of the blog post and my website are down below in the information below this on YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube. Yes, and if you want to see more products that I'm doing or more projects, please subscribe. I hope you enjoyed that, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.